Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Just here in the secret garden on the island we often read on in
Queen's Mary's Rose Garden.
Well, yeah.
In Regent's Park.
Regent's Park, yeah. Near Queen Mary's Rose Garden. Very beautiful spot, very secluded, very peaceful, and very luscious, as you can see now in the summertime. In the winter we often read, we've been reading here in early spring, and it's just so barren, but now there's so much greenery. And so we just thought we'd hide inside of this and share with you the beautiful experience and places you can go to read Srimad Bhagavatam.
Alright, well, Canto 3, Chapter 9, Text 34, Brahma's Praise for Creative Energy. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 34. Since you have desired to increase the population innumerably and expand your varieties of service, you shall never be deprived in this matter, because my causeless mercy upon you will always increase for all time. Purport. A pure devotee of the Lord, being cognizant of the facts of the particular time, object, and circumstances, always desires to expand the number of devotees of the Lord in various ways. Such expansions of transcendental service may appear to be material to the materialist, but factually they are expansions of the causeless mercy of the Lord towards the devotee. Plans for such activities may appear to be material activities, but they are different in potency, being engaged in the satisfaction of the transcendental senses of the Supreme.
Sounds like a great purport for making devotees, huh?
Yeah, in all different ways. There's no right or wrong way. Whatever way that we're inclined or have some skill or interested, different projects we should do, not for the sake of increasing money for the temple or name and fame, but just every single living person is a jiva, black, white, brown, whatever, and we should reclaim them on behalf of the Lord.
Yeah, it's not even so much about the temple as much as it's about helping every jiva to reconnect with their original identity.
Yeah. Very important.
Wonderful. And this is basically in the context, since you have desired to increase population innumerably and expand your varieties of service, you shall never be deprived of this matter, because, so sounds like a great quote for community development, huh? Expanding the community. It's nice. Okay. Text 35. You are the original Rishi. So this is Krishna, right? Speaking to Vishnu, speaking to Brahma. And because your mind is always fixed on me, even though you will be engaged in generating various progeny, the vicious mode of passion will never encroach upon you. God, what a benediction, that even though you're involved in the process of creation, you won't be influenced by passion. Purport. The same assurance is given to Brahma in the second canto, chapter 9, verse 36. Being so favored by the Lord, Brahma's schemes and plans are infallible. If sometimes Brahma is seen to be bewildered, as in the 10th canto, he is bewildered by seeing the action of the internal potency that is also for his further advancement in transcendental service. Radhe. Arjuna is found to be similarly bewildered. All such bewilderment of the pure devotees of the Lord is specifically meant for their further advancement in knowledge of the Lord. Interesting. Maybe a little bit difficult to understand, because when we see great personality maybe becomes bewildered, our tendency may be to think that they're like a normal human being and they should be derided in some way. But as it explains in the Bhagavad Gita, Apichet Suduracharo 9:30, that a devotee very quickly rectifies himself and comes back to the platform of the performance of devotional service in the path of bhakti. So therefore, even if they commit what seems to be an abominable action, they're still to be considered saintly. So that's very difficult to understand, very difficult to apply, and to know who to apply it to, one might say. Of course, we see here that Lord Brahma becomes bewildered and he steals the cowherd boys, he steals the cows from Krishna, plunges everyone apparently into desperation out of some sort of envy also, and there's so many things. But in the end, he's rectified and he bows down to Krishna and he apologizes, and it's all been for his betterment. So I guess it's like going to a gym or something, or running, Sometimes you have to go through there's like challenges, peaks and troughs, or points.
The wall.
Yeah, you hit a wall. That's it. You hit a wall and you think, oh, I'm never going to get through this. This is terrible again. But it's actually part of the growing process. Like the caterpillar or the butterfly trying to get out of the cocoon. It has to fight to get out. And once that happens, that fight strengthens its wings so that it can fly. Anyway, a bunch of stuff. But, sorry, I know I talk too much.
Text 36. Although I am not easily knowable by the conditioned soul, you have known me today because you know that my personality is not constituted of anything material, and specifically not of the 5 gross and 3 subtle elements. Purport. Knowledge of the Supreme Absolute Truth does not necessitate negation of the material manifestation, but understanding of spiritual existence as it is. To think that because material existence is realized in forms, therefore spiritual existence must be formless, is only a negative material conception of spirit. The real spiritual conception is that spiritual form is not material form. Brahma appreciated the eternal form of the Lord in that way, and the personality of Godhead approved of Brahma's spiritual conception. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord condemned the material conception of Krishna's body, which arises because he is apparently present like a man. The Lord may appear in any of his many, many spiritual forms, but he is not materially composed, nor has he any difference between body and self. That is the way of conceiving the spiritual form of the Lord.
Thoughts?
It's just that point that people, sometimes confuse his human-like form to be material.
I guess that can be applied also to different activities and things that happen, So how we have to see the Lord's hand and everything. That was mentioned a few verses before, right? How Brahma has to be able to see the Lord's hand in everything. So sometimes we may think something that's happening to us is material, but actually it may be the will of the Lord, that He's really trying to make something manifest, but we're misinterpreting. We're not seeing with proper vision. Like, what was it the other day? Oh, the fire in the wood. We're not seeing the fire in the wood. We're not seeing Krishna in the action, in the activity. We're not seeing his hand. And in the same way, you can look and say, oh, he's just an ordinary man, But it really takes having spiritual vision and transcendental wisdom to be able to apply these things, Not everyone could see. So, brilliant. Anything else? 937. When you were contemplating whether there was a source to the stem of the lotus of your birth, and you even entered into that stem, you could not trace out anything. But at that time, I manifested my form from within. Purport. Personality of Godhead can be experienced only by his causeless mercy, not by mental speculation or with the help of the material senses. Material senses cannot approach the transcendental understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Interesting. He can be appreciated only by submissive devotional service when he reveals himself before the devotee. Only by love of Godhead can one know God, and not otherwise. Again, a little bit of a paradox, because it seems like in order to love God, you have to know Him, but you can only know Him through loving Him, kind of thing. The personality of God cannot be seen with material eyes, but He can be seen from within by spiritual eyes opened by the ointment of love of Godhead. As long as one's spiritual eyes are closed due to the dirty covering of matter, one cannot see the Lord. But when the dirt is removed by the process of devotional service, one can see the Lord without a doubt. Brahma's personal endeavor to see the root of the lotus pipe failed, but when the Lord was satisfied by his penance and devotion, he revealed himself from within with no external endeavor. Interesting. What do you think?
What do you think it's interesting?
Well, I think it's interesting that Prabhupada says you can't understand the Lord with material senses. But in one sense, it doesn't mean that not without utilizing the material senses, but by utilizing them in devotional service, they become spiritualized, right? What's the verse? Oh, goodness gracious. What is that verse? Oh, Rishikesh. Sevanam Bhaktir Uchite. What's the beginning of that verse? Tadvidi Krishna, I can't remember. But anyway, that verse which says basically the control of the senses, transform and utilize my senses so that they can be engaged in devotional service. So I think that's interesting. And also that Lord Brahma endeavored to find out, using his material senses in a way, to try to find out what's going on here. But the Lord becomes pleased by our surrender and our endeavor. It says here by his penance and devotional service. And then the Lord reveals himself. There's no way that we, by our endeavor alone, can see the Lord. So that's why material scientists fail. Because they think, if I should be able to see the Lord just by my endeavor. But no, it doesn't work like that. There has to be some devotion. There has to be some desire and understanding that the Lord is there, and please, my Lord, let me see you. And then we endeavor, and if we don't see him, we still have faith that he's there, and like that. Anyway, a few thoughts.
Yeah, and the instruments, tools that they're using, their senses, their ears, their brains, they're all limited and faulty. So if you're in a scientist's laboratory and your thermometer's broken and your Bunsen burner don't light, then you ain't going to get much done. And then yet you still proclaim this and proclaim that. You're not going to have much credit. The irony is that they all pat each other on the back and give themselves credit, yet all the instruments they use are faulty. Because they're all cheaters, as Prabhupada says.
Nice.
Text 38. O Brahma, the prayers that you have chanted praising the glories of my transcendental activities and penances you have undertaken to understand me, and your firm faith in me, all these are to be considered my causeless mercy. Purport. When a living entity desires to serve the Lord in transcendental loving service, the Lord helps the devotee in so many ways as the Chaitya Guru or the spiritual master within, and thus the devotee can perform many wonderful activities beyond material estimation. By the mercy of the Lord, even a layman can compose prayers of the highest spiritual perfection. Such spiritual perfection is not limited by material qualifications, but is developed by dint of one's sincere endeavor to render transcendental service. Voluntary endeavor is the only qualification for spiritual perfection. material acquisitions of wealth or education are not considered. Which is true. Otherwise, the many multi-billionaires that we get coming would be Paramahamsas. Glorious as they are, but they're not.
Yeah, so I like this. Voluntary endeavor is the only qualification for spiritual perfection. So, if, no one's being forced. So people who come forward out of their voluntary endeavor, they're making the effort to try to come to see Krishna. That is the qualification for spiritual perfection. So, whatever, even pauper or billionaire, if they're making an effort to come and see Krishna, that's their qualification for making spiritual advancement. Nothing to do with the other aspects, whether they're a PhD or a DUMB, it's like, DUMBY. It's like people can make progress just because they try to come closer to Krishna, utilize their energy for coming to see Krishna or serve Krishna. Right?
Yes, it's all voluntary.
Yeah.
And it's all dependent on our own endeavour. Sometimes we can blame the environment or authorities or people around us or the parents or the workplace or this. But none of it really can be advanced and fixed in, whatever situation, because it's down to us.
Yeah, I think it's also important, that voluntary point, that we should understand that means you also can't force anyone. So you can't force your kids, can't force your parents, can't force your friends, you can't force your work colleagues, you can't force anyone. It has to be a voluntary thing. And in that way means that we have to become expert, as a few verses before, and at various ways of attracting people and bringing them. The Lord himself manifests in so many different forms just to attract the living entities. So he's trying so many various ways to attract different living entities according to their taste. He's not, of course we do hear of the kind of God that's like, follow me or die, burn in hell, that kind of thing. But our understanding of God is that, no. I mean, he may be like that also. He'll also have that form, but to attract those kinds of people. But he manifests many varieties of forms just to attract us. So we also have to become expert at figuring out how to attract someone. And of course we know the all-attractive method of bringing people closer to Krishna is?
Food.
Prasadam, yes. We don't do food, we do prasadam. So prasadam, because the way to a person's heart is through their tummy, yes. Okay? Should we try to read one or two more?
Okay.
Am I next? So text 39. Is that right? 39? I am very much pleased by your description of me in terms of my transcendental qualities, which appear mundane to the mundaners. I grant you all benedictions in your desire to glorify all the planets by your activities. Purport. A pure devotee of the Lord, like Brahma and those in his line of disciplic succession, always desire that the Lord be known all over the universe by each and every one of the living entities. That desire of the devotee is always blessed by the Lord. Nice. The impersonalists sometimes praise for the mercy of the personality of Godhead, Narayan, as the embodiment of material goodness. But such prayers do not satisfy the Lord, because he is not thereby glorified in terms of his actual transcendental qualities. So, just by approaching the Lord in an impersonal form to get some benediction, it doesn't please the Lord, because we're not approaching him in his real, true identity form. Just like, I guess, if a child comes to you, and says, Mommy, Daddy, or Auntie, Uncle, can you please do this for me? They're addressing you in a kind of personal form. Whereas if someone writes a letter, Dear Sir, Madam, or to whom it may concern, Yeah, the pure devotees of the Lord are always most dear to him, although he is always kind and merciful to all living entities. Here, the word gunamayam is significant because it indicates the Lord's possessing transcendental qualities. Interesting, very nice. Any thoughts?
No.
Okay. Should we read 40?
Any human being who prays like Brahma and who thus worships me shall very soon be blessed with the fulfillment of all his desires, for I am the Lord of all benedictions. Purport. The prayers offered by Brahma cannot be chanted by anyone who desires to fulfill his own sense gratification. Such prayers can be selected only by a person who wants to satisfy the Lord in his service. The Lord certainly fulfills all desires in regard to transcendental loving service, but he cannot fulfill the whims of non-devotees, even when such casual devotees offer him the best of prayers. We have to be sincere. Because we have to remember Krishna as a person. It's not that you can offer choice prayers and quote this and that, and then it's, he's a robot, or, he's a person, and you may even offer the most sincerest of prayers, and because he's a person, due to his own whim or whatever lesson he needs to teach other people through you or this, he can also ignore you. I think it's an important point. He's a living, breathing man, You have to remember that.
Yeah.
It's not like an order fulfiller.
Order supplier, Prabhupada says, it's like a waiter. Garçon, garçon.
He's not Amazon.
Right. Yeah, order what you like, it arrives tomorrow if you're a Prime member.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Okay. I'm going to stop because this side of my face is melted. Like something out of a movie, from a movie. This side is the machinery showing because skin's melted.
Transcendental senses. Thank you all very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.